Hello, everyone. Bonsoir, tout le monde. Welcome to our live discussion in regards to budget 2023. My apologies, mes excuses. I was having technical difficulties with the system, and I had to do some. Thanks to staff, I was able to get back online. So this is I'm hoping this is going to be an interactive session. J'espère qu'on va être capable d'avoir des discussions un petit peu. Avec moi aujourd'hui, with me today, we have Richard Godin, who's our Director of Finance. Say hello, Richard.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for being here this evening. So we're going to be going through the budget 2023. This is something that you'll be able to actually find on our website. So if you're on our website, you can just go under the township here and click on budget and finances. And then you will have, you'll see the documents that are related to budget 2023. Tu vas être capable d'avoir des documents qui sont reliés à 2023. Comme n'importe quoi d'autre, c'est un petit peu slow de mon côté, mais tu vas voir le document, tu peux également l'avoir en français. So the budget 2023 brief, I'll just start off by saying that this year's budget was approved with a 4% tax increase. And we'll start going through the document, and that'll give you a good idea of what the 4% actually represents. So if you're scrolling through here, you'll see a little bit about the budget process, strategic plan, messaging from our CAO and the treasurer. Let's start off right away with number 6, taxation, how we compare. So the total tax levy in 2023 is about $16.5 million. Just a little bit of stats over the last 4 years. So in 2020, we had a 4% increase, followed by 2.5, 2.5, and 4% against this year. Again, 4%, we know that inflation is currently in the 6.8, 7 point something range. So I was very, very happy with this budget. And we'll go through and see a lot of details. And again, if anybody's watching, you just have to type in the comment section. Vous avez des questions, faites-le mettre dans la section des commentaires, and we'll be able to address those. So if we go through the next page, this tax levy increase. So the sections that are in yellow actually show how much growth we've had. And as we know in the township, we've seen an incredible amount of growth in the last few years. Somebody's just checking in to see if I can see the comment. Yes, I can. Thank you very much, Eric. Much appreciated. So, and then the section in blue, the tax increase. So the 4% that we increased represented roughly $637,000. We had approximately 1.189 million from assessment growth. So, Richard, maybe you can just confirm and feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. Assessment growth is basically all the new properties, whether it be commercial, industrial, or residential, that were added to the assessment or like their first time tax bill, correct?
That's right, Mr. Mayor. So basically the 1.18 million that we see here is everything from new construction in 2022. So everything that wasn't in the tax roll in 2022 and that was added in 2023, that would represent our revenues from growth.
Okay, perfect. The next slide you'll see here. So what is 1%? When we talk about how much taxes, how much money do we make with a 1% tax increase? So in 2023, 1%, as you can see at the far right, is roughly $160,000. So as you can imagine, today's market, if you will, $160,000 doesn't really go that far. So if we did not have that growth component, that 1.189 million of new taxation coming in, then would fall on top of the shoulders of the existing residents. And, we'd see a lot more than a 4% increase. So the growth is really helping maintain a respectable taxation increase for our residents. si on continue, puis on voit d'année en année que ça augmente un petit peu à chaque année, qu'est-ce que 1% représente. So here's a slide that I really enjoy looking at. This is to compare us to the rest of Prescott Russell. So maybe I can make this a little bit bigger. Let's see if I can do that. No, I can't seem to do it. So here you'll see that Russell is, in regards to when it comes to tax rates, for per $100,000 assessment. So for every $100,000 of your assessment of your house, municipal taxes is $528 that the township receives. In comparison to other municipalities, you can see that for the same $100,000, it is much higher. The next one in line, Castleman's 20% higher than us. Champlain, same thing. Nation, almost 40% higher. Hawkesbury is actually 113% higher. So that means for every 100,000, they're actually paying $1,100 in municipal taxes. So that has a big impact in the sense that, how are we doing in comparison to other municipalities? The only one is lower than us is East Hawkesbury. East Hawkesbury is a wonderful municipality. Obviously, they don't have the services we offer here in the township, and they have a very much a smaller population base. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is when we talk about average assessments. So this is, this chart here shows what the average assessments are. So the township decides what the tax rate is, and MPACT is actually the ones who determine the value of your property. So while we control these numbers here, MPACT will determine what the value of your property is on this screen. So we are in Prescott Russell, we do have the highest evaluations, or the highest value property, average property. So, when you combine both, so when, municipal taxes levied on the average assessment up here, you can tell that we're actually in fourth place. We're about middle of the pack. Hawkesbury, the average house is $172,000, but they're actually collecting more taxes on that $172,000. So, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and just if you look at the bottom line here, so we actually did a comparison. So the average household versus in Russell Township versus the average home in Ottawa, we're probably 8% less in taxation. Obviously, the city of Ottawa has a lot more services we do, OC Transpo, that kind of stuff. But this is also a good comparison to understand, how we compare. And as I mentioned, comme j'ai dit, si vous avez des questions, just throw a comment in there. Happy to address any of those topics. So one of the things that was really important in this year's budget was the Human Resources Action Plan. So, and guys, I invite you to go look at this. I'm going to go through a lot of this stuff really quick. I invite you to go read the document. It's not that long. It's only about 20 pages. But one of the things that council and the administration move forward with is, in the last few years, we've really concentrated on infrastructure improvements. We've really concentrated on material things, but we haven't been keeping up pace with our human resources. We haven't, we've seen almost a 20% growth in the last 5 years. We haven't adjusted our staffing accordingly. So, to maintain the level of service that we currently have and to improve on that service, there is a 4-year action plan that was put in place. So we are seeing a lot of added positions in the corporation this year. Anything to add to that, Monsieur Godin?
Maybe just to mention, this is a very aggressive plan over a 4-year period. We are adding a few positions to the organization in 2023. We were able to do this with due to sound reserve management decisions that have been made in the past, as well as the growth revenues that we showed in the previous slides. We're able to do this without increasing taxes too much, as Ms. Mayor said.
Yeah, because out of like I said, out of that 4%, As I stated in the budget adoption news release I put out the following day, there's out of the 4%, there's 2.5% increase that's in our roads infrastructure, which we'll talk about a little bit. And there's an extra 1% specifically for the rec complex project. So we'll discuss that as well. So a lot of information there, as I mentioned. Je vous invite d'aller lire le document. So this here, we're just going to go quickly through the departments to give you an idea how things work. So in this case, council, CAO, corporate services, as you see, clerk's office, human resources, IT, communications, all that stuff falls under corporate services. The total operating budget is $3.8 million. Again, because it's human resources, that's part of the increase we're seeing this year. You'll be able to see how the average portion of your taxes breaks down. So for the average household, like we mentioned earlier, so actually 10% of the taxes you're paying is going towards these services. So you can see a year-by-year comparison. Yeah. So that's there. So here we have a question I just want to bring up, Richard. So I have a question here. Michel, 4% tax increase, out of which 1% to rec center, 2.5% to road conditions, and the 0.5% for. As we mentioned, Michel, at the beginning, there is some increase that comes from growth as well. And as we go through the departments and you go through this, you'll be able to see where all the increases come from. So in this case, we're seeing a little bit of an increase of 2.3% increase in the average municipal portion taxes for corporate services. Capital projects, obviously, we're looking at improvements and renewals to town hall, our fleet replacement. This is a big one. Monsieur Godin, I believe we have a snowplow we're replacing.
Exactly. We'll be replacing snowplow in 2023 as well. There was a few vehicles as well that were due for replacement. So it's kind of a big year for the fleet replacement. That's not a typical number every year, but the main one is the snowplow.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. And then as you go through the document, building and planning, we see here highlights $25,000 to update the CIP programs for villages of Embrun and Russell. There's actually a question related to that. Maybe we can bring it up here, Monsieur Godin. So, la question, bonjour, Roch. Bonjour, pour le programme d'amélioration communautaire, pour améliorer les propriétés des rues principales d'Embrun et Russell, les commerces des deux parcs industriels, combien d'argent a été prévu pour 2023 et combien avait été prévu pour 2022 et combien a été donné en 2022? I'm not sure if you have quick access to that, Richard, or not. Je sais que si je m'en rappelle bien, l'enveloppe globale pour ce programme-là, c'est 75 000 cette année?
Là, on parle des chemins, c'est ça?
Non, the CIP programme.
Oh, le CIP programme, oui, c'est ça, c'est 75 000. On a une ligne au budget opérationnel dans le département de planning. C'est 75 000 par année. Donc, il y a des années qu'on dépasse un petit peu plus ou des années qu'on dépasse un petit peu moins. Puis les années qu'on dépasse moins, bien, on garde les fonds qu'on a prélevés pour l'année suivante. Donc, en moyenne, on dépasse environ 75 000 dans ce programme.
OK. So, par exemple, en 2022, si on avait dépensé 50 000 du 75 000, il reste 25 000 qui est transféré, puis on fait augmenter de 50 000 dans le budget cette année. C'est ça?
Exactement, c'est ça.
Oui. OK, parfait. Merci beaucoup, Roch. Si tu as besoin de plus de clarification, tu peux tout le temps m'envoyer un courriel, M. Padnaud. In regards to, on était rendu building and planning, you'll see when we're looking user fee funded, zero amounts. User fees are not part of taxation. They're actually, for somebody who's paying a building permit, for example, they would be paying a fee, and those fees are paying the cost associated with that. So planning and zoning, you can see that there's a slight increase there. I think that's in regards to human resources as well, Monsieur Godin. We needed assistance in that department. Again, you'll see throughout the departments how it's broken down. The notable projects for the improvements. Economic development is another good one. we have some studies to do this year. We're looking at redoing our retail market demand study that was done about 5-6 years ago before the pandemic. On sait qu'il y a beaucoup de changements qui ont eu lieu depuis la pandémie. Alors, il faut faire certain que nos plans stratégiques sont mis à jour. Une des grosses affaires, for those who have not seen our industrial park lately, I invite you to take a drive. We've had significant growth in our industrial park. A lot of the 1.1 million that you saw in growth actually comes from the industrial park. It's been very, very busy there, creating a lot of jobs and tax revenues. So that's always fun to see. You can tell how much of this department is related to tax contribution in that area. We'll just keep scrolling along. Fire and rescue, a lot of training. The province has changed the rules in regards to certification, what firefighters have to be certified for the next, I believe it's 2025. Alors, il va y avoir beaucoup de changements qui va venir. Alors, il faut faire beaucoup d'investissements dans la certification de nos pompiers. Alors, c'est pour ça que tu vois des augmentations dans ce département-là. Les listes, tu vas voir firefighter bunker gear, replacements. We have to make sure that our firefighters have the right equipment and up-to-date equipment so that they're always 100% safe. Infrastructure, here's some fees. Water and sanitary user fees, these are being maintained. There was no increase in the water or sewer fee this year. Waste management, the recycling fee, the disposal fee, the collection fee. There will be some changes this year in regards to recycling is actually going to become the responsibility of the producers. Township will no longer be responsible for recycling at about the half point this year, I believe July, at which point staff is already working on going to an organics program, which will be the responsibility of township, and we are mandated by the province to do so. We have a question here. How much was spent buying land for the purposes of selling industrial lands? I don't have the amount off the top of my head, but I can tell you that the price we paid and the price we sold for, we made a considerable profit on those. Can you be a little bit more specific on that question, Richard?
Yes, definitely. So basically, I think we're doing it in phases. So there were a lot of investments done and a lot of lands bought and sold. The last parcel of land that was bought was for about 7 million. But like Mr. Mayor said, we're selling them at a price that we can recuperate the purchase price, as well as the cost to build roads and to bring the hydro and natural gas and all those expenses. So we are investing quite a bit into those lands, but we're selling them at a higher price, as well as being able to recover our costs to bring the services there.
Yeah. And I think something to keep in mind as well is the point is not to make money on the land. The point is to create a new revenue taxation stream that will continue giving taxation dollars to the township in perpetuity, correct?
That's correct. C'est un très bon point. Puis aussi, il y a aussi une stratégie en développement pour que les revenus de taxes soient aussi suffisants pour être capable de maintenir les chemins dans un bon état aussi, puis les remplacer ou bien refaire du pavage quand c'est nécessaire.
OK. Parfait. Merci beaucoup pour la question. Again, we can see some of the works that are being done, how the funds are being spent. I just want to go one that people are always very interested in is what roads are being done this year. So we can see that we're spending 1.7 million for road rehabilitation, paving of Route 400 from South Russell to Wade, paving a Laux Drive from Maple to Canard, paving of Route 500 from Saint-André to Sainte-Catherine, paving of Blais Street, Notre-Dame to Saint-Jean-Baptiste, paving of Wade Road, Castor to Shujac, and resurfacing the commercial park in Embrun. We are also looking to do road rehabilitation in our industrial park at the 417. That being said, that's conditional. Council still has to take a position on whether we're going to be bringing services to the industrial park or not. That is a big file. I believe we have a special council meeting on May 1st specifically for that. And I think I forgot to mention at the beginning, Richard, but I think it's something to mention now. When we're talking about a 4% increase, 4% increase on the average household is what was it, 60? Do you remember?
It's 60? For the average household, it would be between $60 and $70.
$60 and $70 for the year itself, right? So if you break that down, you're talking about $5-6 a month tax increase for the average household. Break it down even further. That's not even one coffee at one of our local coffee shops. So I think in a time of inflation, I think this is something that's quite acceptable. Looking at some more improvements, pedestrian crossings at Blaye Notre Dame and Notre Dame Saint Guillaume. That's in partnership with the United Counties because Notre Dame is a United County road. So we're going to be seeing those pedestrian crosswalks at those two intersections. We're seeing sidewalk improvements. Saint-Andre Bridge rehabilitation, $1.6 million. Replacement of storm sewer on Craig Street, that's another $2 million. And some sidewalk snow removal equipment. So, when we talk about, again, 1% represents $160,000. When you're looking at these size projects, staff have done an incredible job. Faire certain qu'on a un plan en place financier pour être capable d'être conscient de comment ces choses-là affectent le budget. Library, obviously more services there. There's a little bit of information on the usage of the library, their operating budget, some of the programs and highlights of them. As mentioned, Parks and Recreation, that's always a big budget expense. Obviously, we have some municipal programming. We have some infrastructure we're talking about. If you look here, there has been an increase in portion for Parks and Recreation. Daycare, I just want to point out, daycare is a user fee system because I know that we are taking over, or we are providing 2 new schools in Russell, St. Joseph and Mother Teresa are 2 daycare spaces that the township will be now responsible for. So, but for those who are wondering, it's actually the user fees that are taking care of that service. It's not taxation. We have another question that just came up. Michelle, understood. Is the overall revenue from the industrial park sufficient to cover road rehabs at this time, eventually bring water and sewer services? So in regards to water and sewer services, I'll just be clear. Water and sewer services will be the landowners who are responsible for. So it's similar to a residential area that does not have water and sewer. If the township, if they decide to connect, the township might agree to front the bill, but it will be recouped from those users. Obviously, the township owns some land, so we would have some costs associated to that land. But if we did bring services, then we would incorporate, we would sell the land for a higher price because we paid to bring services if council decides to go that route. In regards to road rehab, maybe it's a good time, Monsieur Godin, to talk about our infrastructure budget. So for those who don't know, or Monsieur Godin, I'll let you explain it. You're better equipped than I am.
Well, I could just I'll just talk a bit about the infrastructure fund. Maybe I think that's where we're going, Mr. Mayor. So basically, for our roads and for all our infrastructure, we do have an inventory of a lot of assets with a very big value. The estimated replacement costs. We've done some assessments and some studies in the past where we've estimated that we need approximately $4.5 to $5 million per year of investment to be able to replace all our assets when they're due to be replaced. When we did this exercise a few years back, we did we did identify that we had a significant deficit. We needed to be investing 4.5 million, but we were investing about 2 million. So over the last 3 to 4 years, we've been increasing quite aggressively our investments. We've increased them, in fact, to up to 3.4 million. So we've been taking steps so that the answer to your question is yes. Right now, we're not quite there yet. We still do have a deficit, but if we keep budgeting the way we've been budgeting, we anticipate that by 2026 we'll have erased that deficit. So, as far as the industrial park specifically goes, the simple answer would be yes and no. I think that with commercial and industrial businesses, demands on other services like parks are maybe lower. So the taxes that they do bring in, they do kind of cover the costs that are needed to be able to maintain the roads, I would say.
Right, because I remember years ago reading a study for every dollar of taxation collected on a residential side, it actually costs the township about $1.05 or $1.10 to provide those services. But every dollar collected from the commercial industrial side actually only costs about 50 cents. So we're actually making, money on the commercial industrial side, which is helping offset the tax burden on the residential side.
That's right.
Okay. So if we keep going, again, some of the capital projects we're looking at, the rec complex, maybe we can take a minute to talk about the rec complex because it is a significant piece for our budget, Monsieur Godin. So for those who are not aware, the township is moving forward at this point in time. We're at the 30% design stage, or it's about to be presented to council. We're looking at an estimated cost between 82 and 88 million. And it would include a 3 ice rink, 6-lane pool, and a new community center. So a lot of that is growth that's paying for that, Monsieur Godin?
Oui, merci, Mr. Mayor. So that's correct. So a big portion of it is growth. This is obviously a major project for the community, and it's going to be a very big investment, bigger than anything we've ever done. So we have started investing into this back in 2017. So it's been going on for 6 or 7 years now. Our current strategy that we've been doing since then, and that we're continuing to do for the next few years as well, is to increase taxes by 1% per year and to dedicate those funds towards the project. And also to take $150,000 from the growth revenues every year and allocating it to a reserve for the rec complex. So as of this year in 2023, through these investments, we're now up to about $3.4 million collected into a reserve that's going to be used for the construction of that project. And also, there's also about $9 million that have been collected through development charges. So anytime a developer or a builder applies for a building permit to build a house, they have to pay development charges. So we're up to about $9 million for the development charges for Parks and Rec, for which a majority will be invested towards that rec complex.
Okay. And I think there's something we have to mention as well, is that when it comes to growth funds from development charges and so forth, those have to be spent on growth components. So for example, we have 2 existing arenas. If we were to say we're just, replacing the 2 arenas, we're not growing, that's all we're going to do, you're still looking at a $40 million project or $40 or $50 million project that would still be paid by taxation regardless. The 3rd rink, the pool, these are things that we don't currently have. A year-round indoor pool, I should say. So those are what growth is paying for. So it's more complicated than that when it comes to the calculations. Mr. Godin could go on forever for that, but essentially, I think it's important to note, as he mentioned, the plan for this is 1% tax increase a year for a period of 10 years, and 2023 is year 5 now. We've already done it, Mr. Godin, or 4 or 5.
2023 is it's actually year 5. Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah. So we have another 5 years.
Yeah. And in 2023, our yearly, I was trying to say in 2023, our yearly allocation is now up to almost $1.5 million of taxes that go towards that reserve. So yeah, right. It's been 5 or 6 years actually.
Okay. And again, the money we're putting aside is essentially to create enough funds to be able to make that yearly payment. So there's every year we're increasing how much money we have to put down, but we're actually increasing the money set aside to make those payments on the loan that we will have to take in the future.
That's correct. So the plan is built in a way that when we do get to the end of construction in 2026 or 27, at the end of the financial plan, there won't be any further tax increases required, and we'll be able to operate the rec complex as well as take care of the asset management side of it. So changing an HVAC unit when needed, or refrigeration system for the ice and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're taking all the assets into consideration, the increased operational costs. We're essentially planning for everything. What's going to be involved, and can we actually afford it? And based on the financial plan, that's where we are, and we are able to do it now. Obviously, if the price tag when you go to tender comes in considerably higher, if that happens, then council will be faced with a decision at that point in time on how to move forward. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And the plan we currently have doesn't take into consideration, the existing assets, what we could do with those if we were to sell them, sell the land, etc., or grants. It hasn't taken into account any grants either. We've made sure that we can actually do it on our own in a responsible way. As I mentioned, again, different departments, public safety and enforcement. We're looking at speed camera radars. We're talking with, that's being investigated and talking with companies right now on how to implement that, and the new Community Safety and Policing Act for the Police Services Board. Again, you'll see the breakdowns, the capital projects. Here's an interesting slide to see how our things go. So the operational budget items are the day-to-day expenses to operate the current buildings, programs, services of the township. So where does the money come from? So as you can tell, 36% of the money we receive comes from property taxes, 16% from water and sewer billing, 1% federal and provincial grants. Would always be nice if we can increase those. 16% from user fees, reserves and DC charge, and other revenues. Monsieur Godin, what could you see as other revenues?
Well, in this instance here, and for 2023 in particular, the number is high at 24%. An example of that would be land sales. So revenues from land sales are up this year in the industrial park. We are projecting to sell a lot of land. Other revenues that would fall into other revenues.
Okay, perfect. And then you can see where the money goes. This is on the operational side. This is where, corporate services, 8%, building planning, 4%, economic development, 19%, fire and rescue, 4%, infrastructure, obviously being a very big one, 36%, library, 2%, parks and recreation, 20%, and public safety and enforcement, 7%. So, as I mentioned, comme j'ai mentionné, c'est un document qui est très intéressant. Si tu veux prendre, ça se lit très bien, un 10-15 minutes, puis tu as passé à travers du document, 10-15 minutes, and you've passed through the document. And, and then, of course, there's the capital budget, 12 million funded by, and you can see the breakdown here. So we have no new loans planned for this year, Monsieur Godin?
That's right, and I was going to mention it. Essentiellement, c'est ça. Donc, notre budget, on a été en mesure de livrer un budget à 4%, donc qui est environ 3% de moins que l'inflation. Puis, essentiellement, c'est ça. On continue à livrer nos initiatives, puis aucune nouvelle dette pour 2023.
Perfect. And something of note for those who might not be aware, when we talk about at the municipal level, you can create debt, which is you take out a loan, that kind of stuff. And you hear at the provincial, federal all the time is they have deficits, so they're spending $20 million, but they only have 10 million in revenue. That's a deficit. At the municipal level, we're actually not allowed. It's provincially legislated. We cannot run a deficit. So we have to be able to do everything we're doing with the money we have. So that's why we always have to balance our budget. We cannot create that kind of shortfall, if you will. We have a question from Michelle. Is the document available online now? Yes, it is. So I'll just show it again. So when you go to the website, you'll go to the, you can go your township, the budget and finance section. Then as you scroll down, you will see budget 2023. And you scroll down the 2023 budget brief. Si tu l'aimerais en français, tu as juste à changer ta page en français, puis tu vas être capable de trouver le document en français. Sommaire du budget 2023. So yeah, infrastructure fund, we break it down further. The grants, how those come in, reserve, and development charges. That's pretty much it in a nutshell, everyone. Je sais pas s'il y a des questions, if there's any further questions you would like us to answer while we're here. So here's in regards to debt, how many loans essentially we have. The 2023 budget does not require any additional debt. Our total debt in 2023 is 1.4 million, which is well within our borrowing limits. That again, that's not taken into account, Monsieur Godin, the Ottawa Water Sewer project. That's been, that's a long-term project, correct?
That's correct. So the Ottawa project, the water from Ottawa is a long-term project, but the 1.4 million, just to be clear, what that represents is our annual debt payments. That right. does include the debt payments that we do towards the loan, which represents roughly maybe 80% of that debt payment is for that project alone. And just to give context as well, when we say that it's well within our borrowing limitations, the province we have limitations on how much we can borrow, how much debt payments we can make on a yearly basis. It's limited by the province to 25% of our net revenues. In our own debt policy, we've limited ourselves to 15%, just to keep ourselves a kind of a cushion for emergencies. That the 25% represents about $6.5 million. So that's where we say we're well within our borrowing limit at this point in time at 1.4.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We do have another question. Fred, has Russell started any negotiations with the nation for snow clearing and sidewalk plowing in Limoges on the Russell side? Must be very costly to send a sidewalk plow from Embrun to Limoges. I do not disagree with you, Fred. I know that we've had those discussions in the past, and they were not fruitful. Nation at the time was not interested in providing that service. Obviously, we do have a responsibility to take care of our side of Limoges, but I believe that staff has contacted Nation Township again to see, to have those conversations to see, is there an opportunity for cost savings for us and for, better service for the Russell side of Limoges in that case. So definitely on top of mind. A little bit of information as well. Transfers to organizations for services. So these are two instances. The Ontario Provincial Police essentially hands us a bill. We don't really have a say in how that is. We can't say, no, we're going to pay you less. We could always say we want to pay you more if we want to create new services or new programs, but they essentially hand us a bill, and that bill is on a formula that's across the province. South Nation Conservation, we're one of the biggest contributors after the City of Ottawa to South Nation. We give approximately $170,000 towards South Nation for services in our watershed in our area. Obviously, this is something of interest. Sometimes people don't realize that while the Township of Russell collects your tax bill, we actually don't keep 100% of your tax bill. Approximately 37% of your tax bill is automatically sent to the United Counties of Prescott-Russell, who deals with the paramedic services, the main arteries, the main roads, Notre Dame, concession, that kind of stuff, Saint-Guillaume. They deal with social services. So those are services that the municipality doesn't take care of. That's why they're at the United Counties, and they collect 37% of the tax money you send to the township. The other 17% is actually going to the school boards. So at the end of the day, if you're paying, we're talking about almost 54%. So if you're giving, $1,000 to the township in taxes, we're only keeping roughly $460 of it to provide you the services that the township does. A lot of that is going to the counties and the school boards. What else here? I think we're towards the end of our document, everyone. Alors, si vous avez des questions, on va continuer pour une couple de minutes. Sinon, si je vois pas de questions, on va terminer la session ce soir. So if anybody has a last minute question, I invite you to throw it up in the comment section, and we'll be able to address that before we sign off for the evening. As usual, you'll see at the bottom of the screen for anybody who's watching, who will watch the recorded version of this, who wasn't able to participate. You can always send questions to the township, info@russell.ca, or you can send it to me as well, pierreleroux@russell.ca. Always happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to meet with residents and try and provide as much information as possible. I'd like to say thank you very much, Monsieur Godin, for being with us this evening. I know that the budget process is a long and arduous process, and because of the election last year, in regards to the election, the budget is normally done in the fall. We had to push it back. Obviously, we wanted our strategic plan in place, and then we pushed that towards the later this year. And but you're going to be starting the 2024 budget soon, right? Have you started it yet?
Well, not quite yet, but we're almost there. Yes. So 2022 was kind of a year off because of the elections, but then we have two back-to-back within a few months. So
yeah, definitely. So, but at least we've gone through the process now, and we'll be able to address that. Michel Richer, and an additional salary to the mayors within the UPC. No, I'm not sure. UPC. I think he's talking about the United Counties. So yes, I have a salary at the Township of Russell for the job I do at the Township of Russell, and at the United Counties, Prescott and Russell, I have a salary there as well for the job I do at the United Counties. Obviously, when I'm at the United Counties table, I am representing close to 100,000 residents all across Prescott Russell. So yes, I do have two salaries, one at both levels as mayor. With that, if there's no further questions, merci beaucoup, Monsieur Godin. Thank you very much, everyone. Have yourselves a great evening, great long weekend. And hopefully you guys stayed safe and you don't have too much damage on your properties. And Township is working to see how we can assist moving forward, because we know there was a lot of people that were affected by the mini ice storm we just had. Alors, merci beaucoup tout le monde. Have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.
Merci, bonne soirée.